This week, I am talking to actually one of my best friends, Becky, and I reached out to her because I really wanted to interview her because, in my opinion, she almost quantum leaped and transformed her life. Because I remember when we were talking, we met each other, basically we did Camp America, and I remember her saying as we was heading back to England, oh, I'm not sure whether to apply to uni, and she didn't know what she was doing, and nor did I. Everyone at that age, we're so lost. But I remember her saying that she wanted to work in something creative, but she didn't know how. And then all of a sudden, she is now
a marketing assistant at an agricultural machinery dealer. Before America, I was obviously at sixth form, and I was doing media studies, which I enjoyed, but I didn't know if I wanted to do that as a career. So obviously skipped uni for a year, went to America, met you. That was good. And then
part of it.
That was my favorite part. And then, like you said, we both left America. We didn't really know. You were on a summer from uni, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in my first, so I just done my first year of uni, and I was on my first summer. And I don't know, I don't even know why I applied. It was just, we were talking about this earlier, that when we were younger, we just did things like spur of the moment and didn't think twice about it. Like, to go work in a different country with no one is a massive thing when you're...
I feel like you're so much more carefree, aren't you, when you're that age? Like, now I would have to think about it and plan it out, like, to the day, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to get there, how am I going to get back. But we just basically booked a one-way ticket and was like, oh, we'll figure it out when we get there.
Honestly, we were so carefree. And even after we were working at this summer camp, we travelled to New York together. And I feel like that was so carefree. Like, we took a bus 18 hours across America with a load of... We have a crazy story. Do you want to tell the story about the man we met who was like a fugitive?
Oh, he was telling us how you can travel across America, like, for free without getting caught? Wasn't the police chasing him?
Yeah, the police were chasing
him on the run.
He was there illegally. He didn't have citizenship, so I think he went over on holiday and just never went back to the UK. And he was telling us, he was like, the secret is, like, you have to keep on traveling and don't tell anyone your real name.
Don't tell anyone where you're from, where you're going.
But he was basically from where you're from, wasn't he?
Yeah, because he was on the phone and I heard his accent, and I'm from like a little town in North Lincolnshire, and I was like, that he sounds like he's from where I live. And then did I ask him? I can't remember how we got talking to him. I think I just went up to him and was like, hello, sir.
You're British.
But yeah, he was an interesting character to meet, wasn't he?
Very interesting.
That was wild.
I feel like we met a lot of interesting people out there.
Yeah, we did. It shaped us.
Yeah. Life skills.
But like you were saying, we literally just got on that bus. We'd randomly booked a hotel online. Yeah. We had 3 months worth of belongings with us, on our persons. And we're just wandering around America, with no clue.
Just taking it as it comes, spontaneously. Yeah. And
we didn't get to New York till the early hours of the morning as well, did we?
No, it was
until we were getting off a bus at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Delirious, because we didn't sleep on this bus ride.
Not slept for a week, and trying to check into a hotel, the bougiest hotel in Times Square.
I actually don't know. I feel like both of us are quite into manifesting without even realizing it. We manifested this bougie experience. I feel like nowadays we would never go to that hotel, because basically where we worked the whole summer, we had money left over. So it was like, let's just spend it on this nice hotel in New York. It was in the middle of Times Square. It must be I want to say £250 a night.
It was the rest of our money, wasn't it? We just spent the rest of our money on one night in New York.
Yeah, and it was incredible. It's a memory that
it was so worth it. So, and to be fair, if we didn't get it in Times Square, we would just spent more money like traveling around anyway.
That's true.
Everything worked out for the best in the end.
And that's a motto that we apply. Everything always works out for the best. Just jump in.
Yeah, we just try not to worry
Yeah.
much.
So,
I think the older we get, though, I feel like we started worrying more.
yeah, I want to
Yeah.
get back to my days of not worrying and not caring.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah, best way to be. So tell us about the story about when you got home from America and you
Okay, so
started your journey of getting into marketing.
we got home from America. So at this point, this is 2016, isn't it?
Yeah.
End of 2016. We got home. We spent all summer in America, gallivanting about, just no idea what we're doing.
No, like what we both, I feel like we both wanted to stay there and escape reality. Well, I did anyway. I didn't want to come
Yeah,
home.
but it was just to escape reality. I didn't particularly enjoy it.
No.
But yeah, so we got back end of 2016, and at that point, I think it was too late for me to apply to uni because we got back like in September, at the end of September. So it was too late to apply to uni, and I still wasn't like really sure because at the time, I think I was planning on applying to do journalism,
Ooh.
but I don't really know why because it was just kind of, I don't know, it was just one of them. I didn't really understand what it was that I wanted to do. I couldn't really see myself in any career. So I
Yeah.
was trying to think of the things I enjoyed, but I didn't really know. And to be honest, I didn't really know until I got this job what I enjoyed.
Experience in the field, don't you, to actually know what you like.
Yeah.
Like, and uni really like isn't the be all and end all. Like the stuff I do anyway, day to day, is all stuff that's like self-taught or I've got like from experience from an old job. It's not, I don't think I actually do apply the stuff that I learned in uni, not consciously anyway, maybe subconsciously, but it's weird. I don't think uni is the be all and end all when it comes to jobs, especially marketing.
No, I think it's if you know from like while you're at school, if you know there's a specific career that you want to go into, and like to get there, there's like this step, this step, this step,
Yeah.
and like one of those steps is get a degree in whatever, then I feel like uni is good. But in like my situation, it definitely wasn't. But yeah, so I just obviously needed money at that point, so I applied to, where's it? Oh, I worked in a nightclub for a few months.
Like, I bet that was interesting.
That was great. I loved working in the nightclub because obviously we were like 19.
Yeah.
We just turned 19 or 20.
I feel like I was 19 when I was in America. So yeah, you, because your birthday's September, so you were 20.
I just, as we got back, yeah, because you made me that lovely blanket for my birthday. So my birthday was literally, I turned 20 within weeks of getting back from America. So yeah, it was probably the perfect age for that job at that time. And that only came about because my next door neighbour at the time was a manager for a nightclub, and I got back from America and I said, oh, I can't remember, she came round to like see their cat or something, and I was like, oh, as a joke, oh, you're not looking for any bar staff, are you? And she was like, yeah, actually, do you want to start at the weekend? So that, even that, like everything I've ever done has always been like, oh, not that I haven't worked hard for it, but like things just have happened without me like really going for it.
You know what? I feel like that's when you know it's right because it's aligning. Like it just feels easy. And you literally just like spoke it into existence. You were like, oh, do you have a job? And she was like, yeah, I do. And then you got a job. Like you just,
it's so weird. Things just happen, don't they? Everything happens for a reason. I feel like I'm starting to believe that more and more, like the older I get.
yeah.
But yeah, so I started working in the nightclub, and then I started working at Tesco, just as like I think it was a Christmas staff, and then they kept me on, and I actually ended up staying there for 5 years. Between 5 and 6 years, I think it was, which is wild. And while I was at Tesco, I can't remember the actual timelines of it, but I started volunteering. There was a magazine that went out locally.
I remember this. And you got your you basically, I remember you having a really nice laptop as well.
Yeah, they got me a MacBook, and I think I was like 21, and I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
But
I
weren't
don't
you
even,
like chief of staff or something? You were like
in
chief.
fact, that was also a random thing. So I'd seen the magazine because it's a local, they do like 5,500 copies, and it's like full A4 colour glossy.
It's quite a big
Um,
magazine. Like
it was a
each
big
one.
magazine, yeah. So I had seen it like in shops and stuff, but I'd not really, like I'd subconsciously seen it because it's not for my age range. It's aimed at like the older audience.
Yeah.
It's like a community magazine, basically.
Like a new shopper. Do you get them near you?
A what?
A new shopper. I don't know if it's a London thing. It's basically
No.
like they're free magazines, but you can advertise in there. So if you're a local business, I think you pay for advertisement.
Yeah, they did have paid advertising, which, funnily enough, I now for the company I work for, I now send in adverts to
So
the
it's
magazine I used to edit.
all really.
It
So
all
it's
links, honestly,
like
it all links together. Yeah. So that was also a weird random thing. I was at home. I think, because it used to get delivered by volunteers. So I remember seeing someone outside, and they put one of these magazines through our letterbox, which we got like it was quarterly. So we got it every quarter, but I just used to chuck it on the table. And I was just, when you're in a weird mood and you do things that you don't usually do.
yeah,
And for some reason, this honestly sounds like a lie. Every time I say this, it sounds like I'm making it up. But I wouldn't usually flip through this magazine. It is not for me. It's
yeah.
a community magazine. I do not find it interesting. I never found it interesting, even when I used to edit it.
As long as you didn't tell them that when you were doing the job.
I did. They knew I didn't find it interesting. I was 21, for God's sake. It was all about what all the grannies were doing in the community. But anyway, randomly decided to flick through this magazine, and on the front, like, contents page, they had a big bubble, and it said new editor required. And then it had like a little paragraph saying, oh, do you want to try something new? Like, training will be required, it's voluntary, but you'll be rewarded, like it's a good sense of community, blah blah blah. And so I sent an email randomly. This was all just really random. Like, I don't even know why I did that.
It's almost like something took over your body. Like you didn't feel
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, when like people say like people look over you.
Yeah.
So I sent an email, had an interview at the Costa near us, and then she literally just like kind of went through, showed me the past magazines, told me a bit about like what it was going to be. And at this point, again, I didn't really know. I think the advert said something about like, do you enjoy creativity or something? It was really vague.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, yeah, sure. So she showed me all the things, and it was more really of like graphic design than editing. I don't know why they called it editing.
Yeah.
So it was like page layout for a magazine, and it was 48 pages, glossy A4 color. And so I got the job,
Yeah.
voluntary job. You didn't get paid, but
But
it
I
was.
think sometimes you have to actually do those voluntary roles to build the experience. Like it benefits you later on in life, because you probably spoke about that when you came to your current role, didn't you? Like the
Yeah.
experience you got from there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I think if you're looking to get into any role like this, like, I think voluntary, just getting experience in any way you can, is the only way you can really do it. And
Yeah.
so obviously the best way to get experience is voluntary.
And what 21-year-old would have chief editor of a magazine on there? That is amazing.
It was, yeah, it was stressful, to be honest. It was really a lot of work because there was tight deadlines to stick to. And obviously at this point so I went back to uni as well. I applied, there was a lot of steps to this. So I did the editing for the magazine, and I was working at Tesco getting money. I was lucky enough, obviously, to live with my parents, so I didn't need to work like full time for rent or anything. So that was obviously like a helping hand.
But
In
you're a hustler. You were doing work, your editor role, and
editor roles. So then I applied to go to back to college
Mhm.
to like as a as an adult, and it was like extended diploma, I think I did.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But that was in creative digital media, and I can't remember why I applied to do that. I think I hit a bit of a rut. So I was working at Tesco and I was doing this editor thing, but I just felt like I was like, where am I going? Like, what? I can't work at Tesco forever.
I
Like,
feel
where?
like my 20s are a constant. That is a constant
Yeah,
move.
it is, isn't it? You're just like, where am I going? Where's
Literally.
this going? But it was just kind of like, right, well, I need to do something. I need to action something to like push myself somewhere. So I applied to do creative digital media at
And
college.
what is like the overview? What is the definition of that? Is that like digital marketing?
Well, yeah, it had a lot, but at this point, I still didn't really know what marketing was. It was never on the horizon for me. I didn't know really what it was at all. I just knew that I'd done media studies as a general at sixth form while I was like 16. So this was learning the Adobe software.
Which is hard.
Um,
I tried teaching myself that, and I ended my subscription. I was like, I'm not getting anywhere.
I mean, to be honest, Canva is the way forward.
I love
I
Canva.
have hardly ever used the skills I learned in this course. Only some like Photoshop sometimes to like
Yeah.
touch things up,
I
but
remember
that's all things you could learn.
you created such a cool she created such a cool sketch of me, like a graphic sketch.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was so cool. Like it was me and it looked like me, but it was a like almost like a cartoon
Like an illustration.
illustration, that's the word.
Yeah, that was when you had a meditating business.
Yeah,
I loved that.
that was so
And it
cool.
was you sitting cross-legged like this.
Yeah, I was like,
I think you had a book in your hand as well.
yeah, because
I put a book in your hand.
my whole theme was like reading meditation.
Stories.
That honestly, I need to find that. Maybe I'll like try and link it in the video or
Oh
something.
God, don't. I feel like it's really bad.
No, it's really good. I used it as my logo for like a year.
Yeah, it was. And freeze meditation. So put you in like a little blue jumper, didn't I?
Did.
That was a fun little project. Thank you for giving me that. I
Thank you.
remember sitting in the garden and doing it. Like it was it during COVID or was it just before COVID?
I feel like it was during COVID, like the
I
beginning.
feel like it was because I remember sitting in the garden doing that sketch.
Yeah.
Like because it took quite a few hours. I remember sitting in the garden like in lockdown.
Thank you
Doing
for putting that together. Honestly, I got use out of it.
Yeah, you did. That was your logo for a long time. But yeah, so I was at college and I did learn a lot there, but obviously COVID hit in my second year, end of my first year, start of my second year, I think. So it wasn't like a proper college. It wasn't, I didn't get the experience of the full 2 years.
Yeah.
But what I did learn, we did what is it called where you're like in a green screen room and like I had like a microphone,
Is
had
that
to do voiceovers. Pardon?
video production?
Yeah, we did do video production, and we did that other thing where you add audio to like a cartoon.
That's
It's
so
got a name. I can't remember what it's called, but like if there's footsteps, like you'd like add the thing. That was really good. That was a good.
I'd love to learn all stuff like that.
Yeah, it was good, but I feel like I was more doing it just to like get somewhere,
Yeah.
which did work because then in the second year, but I was an older student, so most of my classmates were like 18 and I was 22, 23 at the time.
And you
So
must
I
have,
was like older.
I feel like that says a lot about your mindset and like your vision that you were going somewhere, because it must have been not tricky going back and being with younger people, but you must have noticed a difference of being, did you notice a difference of being with younger people? I know it was
I
on,
noticed a difference in like the mindset because they were kind of there because they had to be there.
we're actually
And it was like something to do. But I'd paid a lot of money to be there and I wanted to get out of it, obviously, like as much as I could.
yeah.
And so because of that mindset in the second year, there was work experience, which I never actually did at sixth form. When I was there at 16, I never actually did that.
I think I had to do something like that for D of E, but I lied and said I did it. I didn't. couldn't find anywhere that would take me. So I was like,
Oh,
I'm not gonna do this.
because of COVID, they were restricting everything. But I was determined. I was like, I need to get as much out of this. Like, I've paid for this. I want to go.
I feel like it means so much more when like your hard-earned money, like, you know, with like school and stuff, like it's obviously you're not paying, and like uni, it's a student loan, so you don't think too much about it. But like when you actually are going back and doing it, it means so much more.
Yeah, and it was only 2 years as well, and I thought like I really need to be getting something out of this, because the actual course itself, it was good, and I did learn a lot of skills which were good on my CV, but I wouldn't say like the actual course content was like life-changing,
Yeah.
because it was just, and as well, I do think COVID probably messed it up a little bit. Work experience, I said I really, really would like to, if you can find any, because they'd said to everybody like, you don't need to do your hours because of COVID, like we'll allow for it and you'll still pass the course. But I spoke to one of the tutors and they found, I think we were on like because it was Zoom, it was all like Zoom meetings and team meetings because of COVID, and we were on a Zoom and someone said, oh, does anybody like horses? And in my course there was about 15 of us, and they were all like, so it's a digital media course, so like they're all kind of, I don't want to be like stereotypical.
Yeah, like into all the digital, like a life online basically. I feel like that's a generational thing, like where like as we were getting older, I feel like online stuff was coming up, whereas we experienced a bit more of like playing out in the street and like being outside. Like we're both really horsey, so we grew up outside with horses, like spending our time mucking out horse poo. Like they don't do.
Which I think doing all of that made us really like willing to work hard.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I've never, in all the jobs I've had, like I used to work in a bakery, and I used to clean the toilets for them, and I was really young, but they used to say like they're Saturday girls, but I was a Saturday girl.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, usually they're not very willing to do stuff like that, but I think it's horses, because you just do anything. There's nothing.
I know why in my first job they took the piss out of me, and I literally
they will take the piss out of you. Because we're just so eager to please. Yes. Nothing we won't do. I think I am starting to grow out of that a little bit.
Me too.
Like, I'm learning my worth.
Yes. I feel like you need to, because like you said, people will take the piss.
They will, but I think when you're younger and when you're working towards a goal, you have to be a little bit like that, because like it does look good.
Yeah.
I was doing 2 days a week, so I was doing full-time studying, full-time work, editing, voluntary, and then I was doing 2 days of 9 to 5 at the work experience at the marketing agency, and so like I said, before I went into that, I literally did not know, I didn't really know what marketing was. I had like a general, I think I just thought posters. I was like, oh, they make posters and like promote things.
Yeah, I used to think more like advertising, TV ads.
Yeah, things. And I remember going through, we had to do clippings of when there was something that we did included in a magazine, we had to like clip it out and stick it or whatever. And they did like Pony Mag and like Horse and Hound. And I remember going through these and thinking, I used to literally buy these magazines, and now I'm sat here and I was like designing adverts to go on the top spec. Oh, yeah, I can say that.
Yeah.
Top spec and like Equitrek, the horse boxes. I don't know if that's a northern thing or not.
No,
but literally like all of the huge brands. Yeah, all of the huge brands that I knew. I was literally sat in this little office with, there was like 5, it was a really small team. There's 5 other people that I was just trying to like learn as much as I could from. But I remember sitting there and I was like, I remember specifically thinking about you in this moment. I was rolling up some banners which I'd designed, and I wasn't being paid by them, like I was just there for experience, but they did offer me a job at the end of it, so they did like me.
See, things, you go out your way, you go the extra mile, and it leads to something for you.
It does. And I wonder like what my life would have been like if I'd have taken that job,
Oh my God, yeah.
because that came at the same time. So I was working there and I was loving it. Like when I finished college, I asked if I could just stay there, and I was doing it voluntary. I was like, can I just come in like a few more days a week? Because I was learning so much and I was getting a feel for like working full time and
Yeah.
being around like-minded people, and I just loved it. Like I was like, this is great. Like I love it.
The environment is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, and they were just like I could hear everyone else's phone calls, and like the boss would be on the phone to someone from um like a top brand or something, and I would just be listening like, wow, this is so cool. But I remember thinking about you a lot in that because it was horsey. Like I was just thinking like, wow, imagine if Charlotte could see me now, because I was rolling banners up to go to horse shows, and it was really cool. And like writing out vouchers for people that had won things, and they would go to like all the equestrian shops for like horse food. Really, really cool.
You were honestly
Really cool.
living both of our childhood dreams. I
It
feel
was, but I didn't know it. I didn't know I was until I was there, and I was like, oh, this is amazing.
made it happen.
Made it happen. But then so yeah, I was working there. So I think all of that was what like helped me to get the job I'm in now. I think without the voluntary editing, without the work experience, because it just shows like putting yourself out there
Yeah.
and like working hard for what you want, which is actually what they said to me. Like when I got the job I'm in now, they said what put you above everybody else was the fact that you'd done all of this like extra stuff, and it just showed that you weren't, because they had a lot of cocky interviews apparently. Like people were sat there like, oh, I've done marketing for like 10 years or whatever, but they just weren't, that's not what they were looking for.
I feel like with any role, but I feel like with especially digital marketing, where it is so up and coming, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of, so a lot of it's like social media marketing, like paid ads, things like influencer marketing and stuff like that. It's so up and coming. I feel like you need to almost go above and beyond and teach yourself these skills. And
Yeah, because it is all teachable, isn't it? Like it's things you can learn by just researching.
yeah.
I
So
did a lot of research.
the recording stopped, so we're starting again halfway through. So you might notice a bit of a quality change in Becky's camera. We
But
should have done it like this to begin with.
I was on my old crusty laptop.
You brought it back to life.
It's because we were on FaceTime when we were setting it up, so my phone was already used for
Yeah,
FaceTime. Anyway, we're back.
we're back in business, and yeah, we were saying that you've got to go like the extra mile, and Becky's going the extra mile led her to her current job now.
Oh, yeah. So I think I was talking about my interview for the job I have now, and that's what they were saying to me. They said that's what put me above everybody else was all the extra things on my CV, such as the editing for the magazine and the work experience and juggling all of that alongside working a full-time job and like holding that up. So that was what they said. But I mean, obviously every company's different, but I do think that's one thing that would probably be consistent across like most places.
I agree. I actually think I say now that companies look for who you are as a person, your work ethic, rather than like what the experience you like, your willingness to work, rather than your degrees and your certificates. Because
That's yeah, they can mold how they want you to
and that's what
be.
they want though. Companies want to mold you. I feel like look out
Yeah,
for that whenever you go for interviews. Wouldn't you agree? Like look out for what
yeah.
the culture's like, because you will be like them.
Which all depends on like I suppose what you're looking for, because for me that was fine. Like because I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. That was perfect for me. The fact that they were saying full training, like you can, we'll teach you everything within the company, because I had very limited knowledge of the actual industry I'm working in now. I don't even know why I thought to apply, because I know nothing about, well, I do now, I've learned. But yeah, like you said, they're just looking for like the personality, aren't they? Like the right person for the role
They are.
rather than the skills. And
And do you know what
well,
that
yeah,
goes
but
back to
pardon.
what I said earlier about how like your willingness to like literally please? I feel like that's what they look for. So if you're
Yeah,
like you'll do great in interviews.
Which is good. I think it all depends on where you are in life, doesn't it? Because I think if I was older and I had experience under my belt and I already had a way of working, but because this was my first step into like my actual career, I was very eager to please, very willing to do things the way they want to do it. So I've been there a year and a half now, and I've definitely like started to do things my own way, and I've found my own voice. But in the first few months, definitely like I was just, yes sir, no sir, anything you want sir.
Well, don't even get me started about how I was as well in my first job. Like,
I remember you telling me about the coffee thing, and they used to make you bring in the coffees and they were so mean to you.
you know what? I actually, looking back on it now, I'm like, why on earth did I stand for that? But I feel like you do, like that was my first job out of uni, my first 9 to 5. And to start with, you actually want a job, don't you? So you're eager to please. You're like, okay, I'll do anything. And like you almost, you don't know what is normal in a work culture. And I feel like some people, back then I feel like I wouldn't have spoken up for myself, but now I would now. But I feel like, yeah, they know that some people they can just push around like that. But basically the story was that my role was like a graduate project manager role. So as a graduate consultant, that was the title. But it was a very small team because I was sitting at the front desk. So whoever would come in, it was almost like, it wasn't in my job description at all, but it was almost like receptionist merged with my job role. So as I was getting the guests, the clients that came in, he was like, would you mind like having a bit of hospitality and like seating them, getting a tea? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like I didn't see that as a problem. So as I would get them a tea, it merged that I would start getting his teas. And then other people in the office would pipe up and ask for a tea. So I remember one morning I got in early because I had work to do that needed to be like presented to the boss or something by a certain time. So I wasn't sure on how to do it. So I would spend like an extra bit of time doing it. Got in, sat down to do the work, sitting down for 10 minutes. This girl goes, Charlotte, can I get a cup of tea? And I was almost taken back, I was sitting there and I was like, but I was like, yep, sure, just give me like a minute and I'll go get one. Why on earth did I say that? I'm not the tea girl. I'm not like, my job there is not to get you teas. And I accepted it. But now I would nowhere near do it. But I feel like and then my role, it just became normal that like I would get teas. So like I feel like when you let people take advantage, it's harder to like voice how you don't want to do it, if that makes sense. You've got to go from the get-go, but like
got to do it straight away.
I'll do it straight away. But yeah, that was my first role, so I was more like timid and meek, and I didn't know, I was afraid of speaking up basically. But we live and we learn. It's all character building, but it's a story that I tell loads of people, like just like, and everyone is taking,
haven't you? Because you talk about it now, like you obviously have learned from it, because you say you would stand up for yourself now where you didn't then. So if you hadn't have lived through that part, then maybe it would happen in a different way.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that. Like I feel like you've got to learn these lessons and they'll keep repeating until you learn them. So I've definitely learned it. So universe, do not send me any more lessons like that. But yeah, that was, being in your first role, you have to go the extra mile and you almost have to go through those things, don't you, to like get that experience under your belt.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also like, have you heard of imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that comes into the like eager to please thing, because I still get that now, where I feel like I'm not qualified enough to be in the role, like I don't know enough about it, do I really know what I'm doing? But I've learned that every single person, even like high up directors of this company that I work for, they're just like, everyone is just winging it, no one knows what they're doing. It's just how well you can wing it and like how confidently you can tell people things. That's the main thing I've learned from a full-time job.
Honestly, do you ever find yourself like taking a step back as well and being like, so you had a conversation with someone and after it you're like, where did all that come from? Like, I don't actually know what I said there. I just said a load of words, but it sounded impressive and I just rolled with it. Like I find doing that quite a lot. And I'm like, I have to be careful. Like, not that like you say things that you don't mean, but it's almost like I'll have ideas and I'll say it and then I'll afterwards I'll check, oh, can I actually do that? Like I get like quite like the confidence, if it makes sense. Like you can actually,
you should never doubt yourself, because like, and also they won't employ, like, you're there for a reason. If you're in a role, you've been employed for a reason. Like, out of a selection of people, they've chosen you. Like, whether you believe it or not, you are like worthy of being there and you're qualified to do what you need to do. Because especially as like, not to go into equality, but they're not going to hire a woman to do something if they're not qualified to do it. I'm surrounded by men in my company and they might not be qualified, but they're not going to hire me if I wasn't qualified. So I just have to remind myself that sometimes.
yeah, that's, I mean, that's actually a really scary point, which goes in about equality, doesn't it? Like in your industry, you're surrounded by men. So it probably hones in even more that how like the inequality is there.
Yeah, and like I feel like we have to work harder to get the same rewards that they would get for less.
Yeah.
Not always. I don't want to get into it, but like not always, but I definitely work harder to prove us. We have to like prove ourselves.
Yeah. And like, do you know what it is? It's people having opinions of you before actually getting to know you and your skills. I think they look at you as a woman, they look at how maybe how soft your voice might be, or things like how you're not as boisterous as men, and they take that as like a negative thing. Like it's almost like the men can get away with less skills. I don't want to go on a bashing of men here, but we see it in the world. Like people can get away with like less skills just because they're more vocal and like louder, basically.
It's all about confidence, isn't it? Like if you let people think that you don't know what you're talking about, then that's how you're going to come across. But if you like talk to people in a way where you're like telling them, because I've had to, and I'm still learning, but you have to just speak to people how, sometimes you have to like speak to them how they would speak to you, because sometimes people speak down to me and then I just like remind myself that I'm like, no, like don't tell me how to do what I've been hired to do. I know how to do it best. That's why I'm here. Like, let me do what I know is right.
I remember you telling a story once about something along those lines, and you were like, hang on a minute, like I'm the one in this role, like I deserve to be here, like I have these skills, like you're not in this role, so why are you trying to tell me what to do, basically?
And do you know, I think digital marketing is probably like one of the worst roles for that. Everybody thinks that they can put their 2 pence in. Everyone thinks they know how to do digital marketing, especially like social media, because everyone's got Facebook and Instagram. Like everyone wants to put their opinion on you, and everyone thinks they know how to do it better than you. And they don't, but everyone thinks they do. But you wouldn't find like, so we have salesmen in our company and you wouldn't find me going to a salesman and telling him how to do his job, how to speak to customers. No, you shouldn't do it like that. Like that's not the right way to do it. You wouldn't catch me doing that.
You wouldn't.
But they'll come to me and be like, oh well, that logo needs to be bigger and I don't think you should do that. And I'm like, no, I know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And little do they know, like digital marketing is all about strategy. Like you said, it's about like graphic design, like it's about data. It's all
goes in.
Analytics. It's like how things are connected, like the psychology of things as well. It's not just, oh, like that looks pretty, I would double tap that on Instagram.
Yeah, it's very different from like your personal social media as well. Like I feel like when you're doing it for a company or for a business, like it's not the same as just posting, because on my personal Instagrams I just post like pictures for memories. I don't do any kind of, oh well, what time is the best time to post for engagement, because I don't care when, like I don't care. But for business, like, it's all different. And like you said, there's so much that goes into it that people, if they're not like familiar with anything to do with marketing, they just overlook everything, don't they? And it is very easy to overlook, especially like the older generation who maybe don't understand it as well. Like, I think they just think we fanny around on Facebook all day, which is not like that far from the truth. But
You know what? Yeah, I completely see that. But I also see like the other side of the older generation not understanding it. So I went to this networking event a few weeks ago, which was so cool. It was all about like digital PR. And it was honestly like, it was in this really cool like building in Shoreditch that reminded me of like a New York loft, basically, you know, like the brickwork, and like it's just really cool. But everyone in there was young, so like under 40s, I want to say, like mid-age, average age like 25, 30, 35. Majority were women. And like, I'm not saying, I'm sounding like a man basher here, but coming from like other industries where they're very heavy top men and very heavy top 50 plus, and they talk down to you and they think what you say doesn't matter. In digital marketing, it's so different. Like, everyone is young, and the young people have the knowledge and the skills, and like you can see their passions, and other people are listening to them, and it's just so exciting to be involved in something like that.
no, it definitely is. And I feel like spending time with like-minded people, like you said, that's like one of the best ways to learn as well. Like, learn as much as you can off of everyone you meet.
So what's your like words of advice to wrap up this little FaceTime call for anyone who's watching and they want to get into a role like yours, particularly like in a firm where it's like you said before, 2 years ago they didn't have a marketing team. So like, if there's a company who are just setting up a marketing team and someone might be going into that role, how would they approach it and try and not change people's perspectives on what's done, but kind of develop it within a culture that's already developed?
Well, yeah, I feel like the thing, like where you just said there, I think the best roles to apply for, if you already have a bit of like a voice in marketing, is probably something where the company is just starting out, and you'll be able to, from the beginning, like do it how you want to do it. Because if you're joining a company that already has a marketing team, or they've already got like a really well established voice like on social media, you have to start that role and pick up kind of what someone else has already done. But if you're joining a company where it's growing, which is what mine is, we've already taken on a new branch since I've started. So if you're joining a growing company, or like a new company, then that's probably where you'll be able to, I don't know how to put it, like that's how
Make an
you,
impact, influence.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can make influence, but it's like your own.
Yeah, so like you're almost like doing things your own way. Like, you'll have the control, the creative control,
Yeah,
basically.
control, that's a good word for it. Like, because I look at the things we do now and I'm just like, I created this brand, like I have made this into what it is. Before I started, it was completely different, and look at how far it's come.
And honestly,
um,
that's rewarding. I feel like that is probably one of the most rewarding things you can get out of a job.
it definitely is. And I think as long as you take pride in like the things you do, then there's no reason why it wouldn't be, is there? But I suppose, yeah, words of wisdom, just work hard,
Like,
but look for opportunities.
and would you
Because,
be open to ones that you hadn't pictured before, basically?
oh yeah, definitely like do everything with an open mind. That's the best, because I think that's how I've got to where I am, is because I didn't know what, I was never hard set on a career. So everything I did was with an open mind, because like even with that work experience, I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. Like, always just think like, yeah, I'll give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? You will always get something out of everything you do.
Do it for the plot, do it for the story. Just look at
Do
your life
it
as
for just, yeah, it is. Just do it for there's like a new chapter in the movie.
I love that.
because nothing's permanent, is it?
It actually isn't. Nothing is permanent. We're here for the experience, guys.
We are. I actually saw this really inspiring thing the other day, but I feel like it's quite deep. But
Okay,
you'll get it.
1 minute
I can
7. Can you say it in that time?
pardon.
We've got 1 minute 50 seconds.
Yeah. Basically, it's this theory that life is all about, like, we're just, because we're made of atoms, and we're basically just little bits of the universe, like little bits of stars and atoms, that the only purpose for us being on earth is to experience living on earth and to experience being alive. And we overthink things and we overcomplicate things, and there's no need. We just need to experience life and enjoy ourselves and make experiences, make memories.
I fully believe that. Like, I'm into that anyway. Like, I 100% believe that.
You've got me into it.
Do you remember our talk when we was in Milan? It was like deeping life, and basically
You were mega deep in life.
we got down the rabbit hole of deeping life and our existence. It was pretty cool. I thought, those are really special friendships when you can talk to people on that level.
I think it's special too.
On that note, we're about to end the call because Zoom will switch off. But thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed our little chit chat. And if you have any questions, just put a comment down below and I will get back to you. But yeah, I've loved having this chat with Becky, and we always have the best conversations and chats together. So it's really nice to share it with you guys. And hopefully she'll be back on the channel soon.